My whole life, I have been afraid of everything.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are now tuned in to JajasMike, home of the world's toughest leaders. It's such a pleasure to have you right now. Today, my leaders, I have a special guest, and she's here to speak to you about a potent topic that I believe has been killing many of us. She's going to touch on being afraid can kill you. This is such a topic of vulnerability because males especially, we don't want to ever let our shell down, right? Because we think that if we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, this is going to lead to some type of eradication of self, right? The death of who I really am. So Taylor today, this phenomenal spirit, I've been working with her these past months, and every time I work with Taylor, God just sends somebody our way for us to share a small story, that's going to affect and change their life. And every time I hear a new story from Taylor, I get uplifted. My faith is grown. It's like I'm going through something that I needed to hear her message every single time. And instead of keeping all of this in today, my leaders, I'm just gonna give you Taylor. I'm just gonna drop her like right now. Taylor, can you fall from the sky? So my leaders, without further ado, I introduce you to Taylor Model style.
Hey y'all, I'm Taylor. I have been very blessed to meet a ton of amazing people in my life, one of them being Mike. And Mike's been asking me to do this for probably about a year, since he started doing all of this, and so here I am. Hey! I just told him I wouldn't do it on one of our photo shoots because I wanted you guys to see the real me and not kabuki mask me, or hey, I got lime green smeared across my face me. I got a fur total pimp coat thing going on me. I wanted you guys to see me. And the whole thing is fear. Most of the time, the thing that we're afraid of the most is people seeing us being naked. For example, Genesis, when suddenly Adam and Eve ate from the fruit and God basically came down as a flaming sword and said, "Why are you hiding from me?" And they appeared with fig leaves because we're afraid, God. And why? You don't have to be afraid of God. And so that's been a thing. My whole life, I have been afraid of everything. My whole life, I have witnessed my entire family being afraid of everything. Trust me, I've been diabetic for almost 27 years of my life. I'll be 28 next February. And it'll be the 27th anniversary, I think late November or something. I don't know, I was 9 months old. I actually made a record for being the youngest type 1 in the entire world at that moment. I've since been defeated, and that is actually really tragic to me. But the fact of the matter is that my mother was constantly afraid to let me go to a friend's house. My friend's parents were constantly afraid to let me come over. And then when I was about 9 years old, my mom said, hey, I'm actually not your mom, I'm your grandma. Your biological mom is the older sister that you've only met like 3 times in your life. You have 10 minutes, pack up your stuff, you're gonna go. So then that started this whole cycle in my life where like my biological mom would go, yeah, I'm gonna give it a try. And then she'd like give it a try for like a month or 2, and then she'd go, no, I can't do it. And then I'd go back to my grandma. And then my grandma, in the meantime, would get into like some relationship or like something, and then I'd go back to my mom's anyways. Or, and I just spent like my whole life growing up on a couch. It was never the same couch. It was either my mom's couch or my grandma's couch, my like aunt's couch. Nobody like really had a home for me because they were all just kind of too afraid to like take a responsibility. And that carried into my adulthood. I've told Mike about it. The longest I had ever lived anywhere was 9 months. 9 months, and then I started getting this itch from the very inside of my body, and I'm like, I gotta go, bye. And I don't tell anybody I'm leaving. I will literally move like 4, 5, 6 hours away and just not even say goodbye to anybody because I don't want to face them. I don't want to have to tell them like, oh, I just decided I just can't do it here anymore. No, I just like pack up my stuff in the middle of the night, I'd leave. It's easier that way. And it was because I was afraid to take that responsibility for my actions. And it just was a constant cycle. And eventually I was so afraid of just telling people no. And so then suddenly I'm in this like downward spiral, like literally downward spiral. Because then I started doing drugs. I ended up becoming addicted to methamphetamines and Dilaudid, of all things. I was doing a lot of speedballs. And thank God I never like injected because I was so afraid of needles from being a diabetic my whole life. And I think that's the one time my fears saved my life. But I was so afraid of letting go of those drugs because I thought it gave me a connection to actual people. I thought people cared when I was high, and I didn't see what other people saw when I looked in the mirror. I weighed 86 pounds. I looked kind of like the ghost of Karen Carpenter, who was famous for dying of anorexia. I looked like her ghost. Like, I looked worse. And I thought I looked great because that's what a lot of drugs will do to you. They give you this glamorized look where you just go, oh, wow, cool, some sparkly eyeshadow and I'm good. No. Needless to say, Thanksgiving, it was November 27th of 2014. I got woken up by some policemen knocking on my door. Turns out a drug dealer had stolen my car, and I was then arrested for felony possession of methamphetamines and taken away to jail. I spent Thanksgiving in jail. And then a day later, took me to Burnett County because I was living in Fredericksburg, Texas, where I'm from. They took me to Burnett County, which is a special medical center jail, so if you have any kind of medical problems, you go there. I ate breakfast every day, 3 a.m., ate dinner every day, 3 p.m., and then I had 12 hours. And on top of that, they put me in isolation because I wear an insulin pump, and they were afraid of the things that would happen to me. They didn't take into account that the fact that they put me in isolation without any just cause actually made me lose my mind. I went real crazy. I called my mom and I was like crying and laughing at the same time. And I'm like, I don't know how to feel. And like, nobody so my mom called the warden, and that same day, they were like, hey, roll up your mat. You're going to population. And it was wonderful. I was around all these other women who knew they did something bad. Not all of these women were ready to change their life, but there were some women who were like, you know what, I'm tired. I'm tired of living the life that I had to live, where I was so afraid to be by myself, because a lot of us were there because we were in relationships. A lot of us were there because we had been sucked into this situation where we felt obligated, which was exactly what happened to me. I never wanted to do meth. I never wanted to do a bunch of drugs. thought that so-and-so's gonna leave me if I don't get high. Like, so-and-so's gonna leave me. I was in a relationship with a man who literally said, if you leave this house, the insane asylum's going to come get you and you will be locked away for the rest of your life. Do not leave this house ever again. I didn't leave my house for 6 months. Grant, I did not handle that properly. I broke 3 of his ribs and also his jaw with a plastic broom handle and my left hand. I'm also definitely not left-handed. And the fact of the matter is like, those were things that I was so afraid of, and I was afraid of the change that was going to be caused. I just wanted to be in the middle. I wanted to be neutral, and I never was able to find it, but I thought I had found it. And it was killing me. I was 86 pounds. I hadn't probably eaten in about 4 days. I was homeless, and a drug dealer had gotten me a hotel room because I drove him to Austin to go pick up the drug supply for Fredericksburg, Texas, so that everybody could have a good Thanksgiving. I ended up spending the next 3 months in jail. I spent Thanksgiving, I spent Christmas, I spent New Year's, and my, That's my 24th birthday, 23rd? One of those birthdays, I don't know. I don't actually pay attention to how old I actually am. Anyways, those things happened. And I was forced into a halfway house. I went from Fredericksburg, Texas to Burnett County to Houston. My mom only agreed to come pick me up from the middle of nowhere jail if I would go to rehab. I was terrified, but I also didn't want to hang out in jail any longer, so I was just like, yeah, sure, I'm definitely lying, but let's go to rehab. I've been clean too long. Rehabs would not take me, and that's when that fear set in again. I was like, crap, I'm gonna have to go back out and get high. And I didn't want to. I was done. I was finally free of this, chains that were put on me by myself. I put them there. I can blame as many people as I want for introducing drugs to me, but I didn't ever have to, keep going. Because it all came from here. And that was what developed those problems. The fact that I was not okay with myself when I started because I was too afraid to fix my problems. And so needless to say, I ended up moving on from that. And then they said, hey, why don't you go to a sober living? Why don't I not? Because then that means I have to talk to a bunch of strangers. Obviously, I've come a long way because now I'm talking to a camera. But I lived there for a year. And in that year, it was a unisex home. They were like little apartments, and there's 3 people into an apartment. And we were required to go to a certain amount of AA meetings a week. We were actually assigned which AA meetings we were going to, and then on the weekends we could go to whatever ones we wanted. I went to cosmetology school while I was doing that. That was very hard. I was in cosmetology school 12 hours a day, 3 days a week. And I was living in 5th Ward. School was at I-10 and Beltway 8. I was leaving about an hour early for school every day. And then right after school ended, I was booking it to a meeting because I didn't want to get written up at my halfway house. On top of that, we didn't really have any privacy. And I don't know what I was so afraid of then because, I don't know, I'm just a pretty secretive, private person. I don't necessarily like people being able to just, walk in and be like, hey, total Urkel kind of moment. And it's like, ew, gross. No, stay out. Knock on my door, please. And then on top of that, the other 4 days, I had a job. Because somewhere in there, I realized just hanging out at the halfway house and watching people live there for 2 or 3 months and then moving out, and they were literally all back in within a month or 2 months, with the exception of one. He didn't get that chance. He had been living there almost a year. He'd been there a couple months when I moved in, and I remember his name was Adam, and Adam was very wealthy, much like a lot of the residents. They came from a very rich family, And Adam left July 3rd. He went to his grandparents' house. And July 4th, his father called Taylor Recovery Center and told us that Adam had died. Adam was on the, whatever the shots are called, that actually basically they prevent opiates. It's an opiate blocker. Vivitrol, that's what it's called. And he had talked so greatly about Vivitrol and how it had saved his life. But Vivitrol mixed with heroin literally killed him because he did not feel the heroin, so he just kept doing it. And he died, and it was just such a thing. He was so afraid to be happy, he literally killed himself, even though he knew he would never feel it. And the fact of the matter is like when he left, he was stoked. He was so happy. And it was around that time I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm unhappy. And I was so afraid of finally telling my mother, like, I'm going to cosmetology school, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Boy, you better believe what happened when I met my husband, because she lost her mind. But I remember, like, when she finally called me, I was like, who's this Brian, what's his face, and blah, blah, blah. And of course, my mom said some uncomfortable things that I won't repeat because they'll make her look like a totally awful person. She is not. She is wonderful. She is my angel, and she has given me this life that I did not deserve. But basically, she calls me. I had to leave my school, like go outside and take this call because she was yelling so loud that everybody was sitting next to me was like, oh, you okay? You in trouble with your mom? And I was like, shut up. I'm like 25 years old. I have every right to privacy. Went outside and she's like, who is he? And she went, I want to meet him. And this is that moment when I should have been like, oh no, Mom, like, let's not, no, it's cool. Because like Brian and I had literally like gone on like 5 or 6 dates at this point. I didn't know which way I wanted to go. I definitely knew which way he wanted to go because the 3rd date he told me he loved me and I lost my voice inexplicably. You know, it just, something happened and I just kind of went, sure. Let me introduce you. I love him to death and I think you will too. She loved him. At the end of the date, she went, y'all ever break up, we're keeping him and getting rid of you. Thanks, Mom. And I had already met his family because he just decided that was totally cool on the 4th date after he told me he loved me the night before. And I'm like, and then I like took a couple breaths and I realized I'm not afraid anymore. And at this point, I don't know where this is going. Like, I think like, oh cool, I've got like cute boyfriend, whatever. Like, I just want to pinch his cheeks and sometimes I want to punch him. That's normal. Well then like 4 months later, he asked me to marry him. I was an hour late to that engagement. Sorry, I was at school and walk-in came in and I gave a really great men's haircut. My hands were sliced and diced and he put a ring on it anyways. Grant, he was apparently panicking. But he asked me to marry him and I did not. That's a really big deal to get married to somebody and I was not afraid to say, yeah, let's do it. Well, okay, I didn't actually say that. I kind of went, and then I realized I was holding out the wrong hand. I went, it had been a long day already. I had been at school for 12 hours. A couple months later, I graduate. I wasn't afraid. I went and got my license. It's like, when I realized I wasn't afraid, these amazing things started really flowing. Like, it wasn't just like, cool, I'm kind of scared and like maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. I quit thinking maybe it got deleted. I don't, what? Maybe what? I mean, the only time I say maybe is because like I'm inviting somebody somewhere and that's because I don't speak an actual direct thing like, hey, maybe you want to come hang out with me? Like, maybe I'll show up, like maybe if the parking's not bad. Like, I don't ever speak in direct, but in my mind, I do. I am firm about every little thing. And that's why by the time the wedding rolled around last August, which we were freaking out because I realized it's been almost a year. Oh my gosh. And I wasn't afraid to say I do. Like, I'm literally legally binding myself to another human being. And I've never had that amount of trust for somebody before. But I didn't care, and I gave that trust to him without any question. And that's what's leading to like my current life. I started working at Ulta when I had ended my apprenticeship, and that job got me down to a point where I was not me anymore, and I did not love myself. I did not care. I kind of just wanted to die all over again. I hadn't felt that since I was using. I was just so depressed. And I remember, like, for whatever reason, there was like a Facebook page for like alumni of Paul Mitchell. And I was like, let me look and see what's going on there. Maybe I'll see somebody, like, see what they're doing. Like, I'm kind of nosy. Maybe they're doing better than me and I can feel better. No, it's all job postings. And there was a salon the other direction down the street, but it was a mile away. It's the exact same distance as the Ulta from me. And they were looking for people. I went on an interview. We liked each other, and she was like, I don't normally do it, but I want to hire you on the spot. Can you please come? When can you start? And she loved me even more when I said, I need to give a 2 weeks notice. Even if they don't honor that, I have to be kind to them. I don't, and I didn't, you don't have to be kind to people, but you do. Because even if you do not like them, you have to show them grace. God showed me a lot of grace in taking me to jail instead of killing me. God showed me a lot of grace in the sense that when I was 19, I refused to, I had a panic attack and did not give myself insulin, and I was in a coma for 4 days. I should have died, but something happened. My mom came home a day early from her trip, and 10 minutes later I would have been dead. So that amount of grace, I owe that. And I'm not worried about it anymore. They're probably still going to slap me in the face because they're a corporation and they don't necessarily have emotions. And that's pretty much what happened. They said, hey, you know what? I know you turned in your 2 weeks notice, but don't come back. Cool, bye. It was like some chains had been broken. I was no longer miserable. I called the new boss and said, hey, I can start tomorrow if you want me to start tomorrow. Yes, please. Come on in. I started. I worked there about 3 months. And unfortunately, I had lost a massive amount of my clientele from Ulta because my prices doubled. They let me go. And it was the most soul-crushing experience because it was my dream job. And I felt it just slide through my fingers. But it wasn't on bad terms. It was literally business. I got laid off because they weren't busy enough anyways, and I was not bringing any new business. And so they were like, listen, when you get more people, we want you back because we love you, we love your talent, we love everything about you. Please don't think badly of yourself. And it was the best advice I've ever gotten after losing a job, because we've all lost a job. And typically, losing a job, it tends to hit just really deep down, because as Americans we have this thought of if you're not working, you're not worth anything. And so I was almost in that place of fear of wow, I'm worthless, I have no talent, oh my god, I shouldn't even go out in public anymore, I should just die. But I realized that I went to sleep, we were supposed to go to a concert, we did not go to the concert, I just cried on the couch all night. And the next morning I was okay. I realized exactly what it was. And so I went back, I collected my things. I waited a week and kind of just took a breather because I realized it was not asking God where I needed to go. And that was just as scary, putting blind faith in something, because then I also have to have faith in myself to listen. Sometimes it's really hard to hear God. And I was terrified. Needless to say, started a new job actually today, which is how we got together anyways, because I needed some shots for their website. I have now officially, in the past 3 months, tripled my haircut prices. You know, and so, and until I can get a basic amount of clientele, they're going to pay me hourly to make sure I'm okay. And they were welcoming, and they loved me because I am different from everybody else in the salon. And the fact that all these things that should have made me afraid were not there, and so I was able to just kind of blindly follow. Because when you're afraid and God tells you to do something, you go, no, 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 God, let me make some excuses. Exodus, for example, they sent the 7 scouts. Every single one of them. There's giants. There's these people. There's them. Everybody's going to crush us. We're all going to die. This is the land of milk and honey, but, like, it's not ours. Yes, it was. It was promised. And they had earned it. After years of slavery, and then, of course, like, 40 years in a desert. Ugh. Okay, like, not even interested in being anywhere for 40 years. And now they get to their destination, and they're too afraid to go? Okay, sorry, hold on. Let me just laugh about it, because I'm laughing because I understand, because I've been there, where I've gotten to the finish line and I was like, no, 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 nope. Hey, high school graduation, like, that was one of them. But the fact is, like, when you can open your heart, you can soften your heart, you aren't afraid anymore. Because your heart has been opened. You have a soft heart. You are not stiff-necked anymore. And when you can lose that stiff neck and hard heart, you can be a voice for God. You can be that vessel. And God can put his will into you and take you to other people and take away their fear. Because you're now able to be fearless. I mean, like, that being said, I'm not necessarily going to jump off a cliff. Just like, hey, I'm fearless, bye. But I'm going to take that opportunity. Hey, I like your hair. Nice to meet you. Because, like, who does that? Everybody's afraid of everybody. You can be powerful through God. That is why he put us here. He put us here. We are direct imitation God. This is one of those occasions where imitation is okay. We are like legit designer material here. You know, we cannot be recreated, and not one single person is going to give you the same message as another person, and that could be the difference. And somebody might have needed to hear your message, but you were too afraid to give it to them. Then you've got more people. It's a pyramid effect of just, oh, I'm afraid and I just can't do it. And you could have said, hey, I was afraid once. Let me tell you how I got through it. I can tell you how I got through it. I cried a lot. And a lot of times when I'm like that, I am more open to hearing God. Because I typically, I'm just really melodramatic, and I'm typically over-emotional when I cry. This includes during kitten videos, so it's not like necessarily just sad crying. It's like any kind of crying, and I literally cry at every animal video I see. I don't know why. I am actually afraid of a lot of large dogs, but I cry at videos of large dogs because they're cute. That feeling, it kind of opens up a passageway for me to hear God. And I'm able to say, hey, God, you know, what? You know, who, where. I'm not ever going to ask God why, because I think it's rude to ask people why. Because I don't know if you can remember as a kid when he said, like, your mom told you, like, hey, go do that. Why? And then the belt came out. If my mother can get a belt, or my personal favorite, the wooden spoon, the one with the little holes in it, I don't want to picture what God has for me, because it's making me breathe heavy. It's kind of like I'm afraid now. So just the fact of the matter is like, you need to find that place of peace where you can, it's okay to be like afraid. It's not okay to let that stop you. So don't. So my question to you guys all of you leaders, where can you find your place of power within yourself to be open to God, to keeping your heart soft, keeping your neck from getting stiff, so that you don't become like those elders in Exodus, where you say, oh, no, this is stacked up against me and that's stacked up against me. Who cares?
Right.
If God told you you're going to have it, you're going to have it. And you need to just, if it helps to close your eyes, do it, except for in driving. Don't do that. Just jump. Take that faith. Just take a deep breath and do it. Nothing in life will come to you because it was given. Even gifts require a price to pay. So that's my question. How are you going to keep your heart soft? How are you going to be open to hearing God? Hear him while you still can. Because we don't always live forever.
Right.
And sometimes while we're still alive, this goes away. So does our eyes. You can't always see this work of magic working around you. That's what I want you to do. I'm challenging you now to be open to hearing from God and not even questioning it. Ask him the questions you need to do to carry out what he is telling you to do. And I promise you'll be a lot happier. It'll hurt for a minute. Suck it up and slap a Band-Aid on it, because you will feel so much better.